Decades ago, I found myself on a long assignment in the wilds of South America. I work in the oil industry as a contract consultant, specifically in geological and drilling operations. This means I often have to drop everything at a moment's notice and fly to some godforsaken oil patch to help a client sort out their geological or geophysical messes. I've been at this for years, racking up an absurd number of miles and an even more ridiculous amount of frequent flyer points. I never fly anything less than business class, and to this day I haven't paid a dime for it. One day, back when emails were still a bit of a novelty, I got a message saying my presence was needed in the capital of a South American country. Let's call it omit it. I'll just say it's better known for exporting plants than oil. They needed help with deep drilling chaos, lost circulation of drilling mud, broken drill pipes, cavern formations, rebels shooting up water lines, and workers from the night shift being kidnapped for ransom. Just another day at the office. I flew into the capital for a meeting with the oil company execs who hired me to fix this mess as their lead geologist. I spent a few pleasant weeks wandering the city, despite wild stories of clashes between political factions and the fact that my hotel was surrounded by armed guards. I blissfully ignored local events, focusing solely on my work, which involved research at the company's headquarters, a short walk from my hotel. I'd get up at dawn, dress, and stroll through nearly empty streets to the office. Over time, I started chatting with the heavily armed guards, toting M16s, stationed at a rival oil company's entrance. I also found a fantastic little cafe that served scorching, throat-searing breakfast burritos. I got hooked on a local liquor called Pisco and lime soda, sold on every corner. I was usually one of the first to arrive at the office, enduring the mandatory pat-down, passing through a metal detector, and petting massive German shepherds trained to sniff out explosives. Then I'd head to the cafeteria for a cup of coffee. By the time others showed up, I'd already tackled some issue and arrived at the morning meeting with results and proposals. I worked in my office, breaking only for a 2-hour lunch with delivered food. Around 5 p.m., I'd head back to the hotel. But that day, a serious issue hit the site, so we held a phone conference until 6 p.m., discussing next steps. After wrapping up, we all left at once. In the elevator, a local manager apologized for the meeting, running late, and offered to drive me to the hotel. No worries, man. I'll walk. After those lunches, I need to stretch my legs, I said. No way, it's too dangerous for a foreigner to walk alone, he replied. Come on, I've walked every day for weeks. No issues. Met some great people, I countered. You've been walking to work every day? He asked, stunned. He dragged me back to the office, convinced I'd lost my mind, and started making calls, determined I couldn't be left alone. He called one of his many drivers, and 30 minutes later, a bulletproof Toyota Land Cruiser with 4-inch thick windows pulled up. He explained it was a company vehicle, and I was now required to travel only in cars with their logo on the windshield. Fine, you're the boss, I said. I climbed into this mini tank, and for the next 45 minutes, we weaved and drifted through the capital's chaotic streets. I'd never seen traffic like it. Road signs were mere suggestions. Most traffic lights didn't work, and a broken horn meant your car was toast. With all that armor and bulletproof glass, I braced for a rollover at every sharp turn. Walking felt safer, but I didn't walk anymore. I squeezed into that armored beast every morning, arriving at the office slightly rattled but intact, only to endure another 45-minute ride back to the hotel each evening. Drivers changed daily, and I rarely saw the same one twice, a detail that would soon matter. We had a mountain of issues: logistics, geology, drilling, one problem after another. I took charge, contacting Cameron Ironworks in Houston to order $3.6 million in oilfield equipment to address production issues. I also tapped old transport company contacts to get materials to the jungle. The team wasn't lazy or incompetent, but getting them to make quick decisions was like pulling teeth from a pterodactyl. I spent too many hours on the phone, spent way more money than I was authorized to, and drank far too much coffee. But in 3 weeks, I fixed what could have taken them 3 years. My motto: better to ask forgiveness than permission. Exhausted but satisfied, I shuffled to the cafeteria for another hit of their insane coffee. As a trained observer, I noticed the building was dark, nearly empty, suspicious. I glanced at my watch, 12:30 a.m. local time. I'd been so caught up spending millions of someone else's money that time slipped away. pumped with caffeine. I could have jogged to my hotel, but remembering the boss's warning, I shut down my computer, said goodnight to the lone guard and headed to the parking lot. I spotted a beat-up Land Cruiser with what I thought was the company sticker, engine idling, my trusty field case in hand, a big suitcase for sudden sight trips. I approached and tapped the window. "Hey, you with company name? I'm working for Inc. for and the war," I said. Two swarthy guys sized me up, muttered in rapid Spanish, and replied, "See, they told us to wait for you. Get in." "Great. I'm at hotel name. Know it?" I asked. "See, we'll take you there," they said. We peeled out with a jolt, blue smoke billowing. "Yup, definitely my drivers," I chuckled to myself. After 25-30 minutes, I noticed we weren't on the usual route to the hotel. We were heading out of the city. Guys, sorry, but you sure this is the way to my hotel?" I asked. The two up front grinned at each other, and the smaller one turned to me. "Sorry, senor, we're not going to the hotel. You're our prisoner now, and you'll fetch a nice sum for the group we're loyal to." He flashed a sharpened machete on the front seat, and the driver pulled back his shirt to reveal an old rusty .32 caliber revolver. Message received. Oddly, this wasn't my first rodeo. In Nigeria, they kidnapped me, a geophysicist, guards, drivers, and even a bulletproof Land Cruiser owned by security. We all got out unharmed, though the Land Cruiser was never seen again. In Moscow, I woke up in a hotel on Leningradsky Prospect to tanks rumbling down the street. I asked my buddy if I should worry. "Close the curtain and get away from the window, idiot," he said. In Azerbaijan, my hotel was shelled right after a 32-hour trip with endless layovers. Some Armenian group, or so we were told, decided to ventilate the lobby. Luckily, we were in the bar and only got ringing ears. In Iraq, the city I was working in was taken hostage, an entire damn city. It was fun until we ran out of gin, lime, and ice. We escaped unscathed thanks to a sudden air-ground fireworks show by coalition forces. "Well, old boy, just relax and enjoy the ride," I thought. "So, senor, you see there's nothing you can do. We don't mean you harm. We'll just hold you until they pay," the smaller guy said. "No problem. My schedule's clear and my calendar just opened up," I replied. "Since we'll be hanging out, can I at least get your names? It's awkward calling you Kidnapper 1 and Kidnapper 2. After a rapid-fire Spanish exchange, the small one said, "I'm Carloso, he's Stefan the driver," obviously aliases. "Great," I said, extending my hand. "I'm Name, nice to meet you." Carloso shook my hand, staring like he expected watermelons to sprout from my head. "You're not scared? Don't you guys say that?" I asked. "Hell no, you're just a couple of guys with a goal. This isn't my first rodeo, and I know my role in this little circus. You say you won't hurt me, so it's in my best interest to be as pleasant as possible. But if you want, I can raise such hell that we all end up bleeding in a ditch. Just so we're clear, I'm not a small guy, about 6'1", 175 to 85 pounds, depending on the season and how close I am to a pub. White beard, love big cigars." Carlos was maybe 5'4", 130 pounds, and Esteban was around 220 but stocky and swarthy. Still, a machete and a .32 caliber revolver leveled the playing field. I'd been shot once years ago in another part of South America, and had no desire to repeat the experience. "No need for that, senor," Carlos said. "Please, we're all friends here." "Fine by me," I replied. "I promise not to make a fuss or try to escape if you promise to treat me well." "Senor, you have my word," he said. "See, we didn't even threaten you. We're not animals." "Neither am I said. "Let's seal the deal with a handshake, like new friends. Why whine or make a scene? You catch more flies with honey than nitric acid." We drove for about another hour through pitch-black countryside, arriving at a crumbling cluster of shacks made of corrugated metal and tar paper in the middle of nowhere. We parked, and they let me out of the back seat. I groaned, stretching, wincing from the ache in my body. I was exhausted, craving a drink, a smoke, and a piss. Not necessarily in that order. "Hey, Carlos, ¿dónde está el baño?" I asked. "Señor, you speak Spanish?" he replied. "Yeah, and that's about it," I said, playing dumb. I actually speak it decently but kept that to myself. They laughed and pointed me toward a windy outhouse. "Luxury," I muttered. After handling business, I returned and asked, "Got anything to drink?" "Water's over there," Carlos said. "Water? This is an adventure. We need to drink and toast this momentous occasion." "Señor, Maybe we have some aguardiente, beer, or guardo, he offered. Perfect, I'll take all of it, I said. Dawn was breaking, and my kidnappers were clearly beat. A sleepless night, the stress of committing a crime, and trying to keep up with a Wisconsin geologist who'd spent years in Russia. My last assignment was an 8-month stint in eastern Siberia. Let's see what else we can toast to, I said. Looks like we'll need another bottle. Senor, I'm afraid you drank all our stock, Carlos said. What are you doing? Just lighting one of my cigars, I replied, puffing away. Nothing like a good morning and a good cigar. You don't often see tough bandits turn a lovely olive shade. But they did. Want one? I always keep a dozen in my case, I offered. No, senor. But gracias, they stammered, visibly thrown off. I'd rattled them. They wanted me to call my office, explain the situation, and outline steps for my release. But frayed nerves and a killer hangover don't mix for them. For me, it was business as usual. They called in other guys to watch me, despite my repeated assurances I wouldn't cause trouble, and explained our agreement. They decided calling the company for ransom was too risky. They wanted to leave a message, but asked me to write their demand for anonymous delivery to my office. Sure, I've got a notepad and pen, I said. What do you want it to say? After a brief dictation, I learned they were demanding $10,000. That's it? For my freedom, and I'm stuck here a whole week? I signed the letter and handed it to a guy tasked with sneaking back to the city to deliver it. Hey, since you're heading to town, grab some beer and pisco. Oh, and is there a tobacco shop? I'd love to try local cigars. Don't worry, I'll cover it. Just get me at least 12 bottles of beer. I'll share. We're all compadres here. Right? After some grumbling, I forked over $250 and a shopping list. They figured since we were friends for now, it was better to keep the Gringo Grande happy, especially since he was paying. So what now? I asked. Senor, we need to sleep, Carlos said. Sleep? No way. I rummaged through my case and pulled out a flask. Forgot I had this. Now we can drink properly. Where's your glasses? Senor? No mas, please, they groaned. Come on, try this. Homemade Siberian rocket fuel. About 160 proof. It'll perk you right up. I poured 3 hefty shots of suspicious, oily, slightly yellow liquid, and offered a Russian tradition. To new friends, and may all their plans go perfectly. Bottoms up. They liked it. Great stuff, huh? I refilled their glasses. Your turn. Senor? I can't, Carlos whined. I topped him off. Oops, looks like you need a bit more for a proper toast. Senor, por favor, I really can't, he pleaded. But we're friends, right? I kept it friendly, the perfect guest. Senor, we're simple people. We don't have fancy traditions, he said. Time to start one. To health. They bravely managed 2 more toasts before their faces turned a gorgeous pickled cucumber green. They were practically begging me to stop. We need to sleep, por favor, senor, they said. Sure, go ahead. I'll sit here, smoke, I replied. The dust settled long after they stumbled off. I dug through my case, found another half-liter flask of that potent brew, and a couple of cigars. I was relaxed, alert, and unbothered, except for a slight concern for my new pals. I wandered the compound, puffing a cigar, scoping the place under the discreet watch of other group members. Then I caught a heavenly aroma of cooking. I peeked through a window and saw a hefty grandma stirring a massive pot of something insanely fragrant. I had no clue what it was, but I was starving and figured I could score some food. After a chaotic introduction, I was invited for a late breakfast. I offered to chop veggies or fetch water, but Grandma refused. She was determined to feed me properly and sat me down. Whatever it was phenomenal. Rustic cuisine at its finest. Exotic spices, mystery meat, homemade bread, fried plantains, and a local low-alcohol drink. I stuffed myself, and Grandma beamed, saying even her sons didn't eat that much. She was thrilled I loved her cooking, a true gem, big, friendly, and motherly. By then the courier returned, having delivered the note. He nailed my shopping list, though I misjudged the exchange rate and accidentally bought a carload of beer, liquor, and cigars. I didn't offer to pay Grandma for her hospitality, but slipped her $100, saying, "Buy something nice for the family. It's my gift." My kidnappers, bleary-eyed, crawled out of a nearby shack and gaped at the haul. I was already handing out cigars to armed locals, who'd gathered and told Grandma to pick whatever she wanted. "Señor, Sagara?" I asked. "Oh, please, which ones?" I handed her a box of cohibas, and she was ecstatic. "Señor, why are you here? Do you know my sons?" I explained my little predicament, offering her a lighter for the cigars, and watched her start to simmer with rage. "They brought you here? Jose and Juan?" They called themselves Stefan and Carlos. "But yeah, they dragged me here last night. I'm their guest. They planned to trade me for cash." It was like a volcano erupting. Grandma unleashed a torrent of Spanish curses, laying into my new buddies. "A splitting hangover and smacks to the head don't mix well." She berated them as idiots, scoundrels, and criminals. "How dare you shame our family?" Slap. "How could you do this to me?" Whack. "You know this is wrong. Now you're criminals." Another hit. I leaned against the car, lit a fresh cigar, and took a big swig from my second flask. Dinner and a show. I grabbed a lukewarm beer, shrugged, popped it open, grinned at my former captors, and said, "Cheers." I couldn't catch the whole conversation, but the outcome was clear. Jose and Juan had to grovel, beg me not to call the police, and swear to get me back to the hotel ASAP. I turned to Mama. "Look, nobody got hurt, and it all ended well, but I can't leave yet. I've got all this stuff," I said, pointing to the car overflowing with booze and cigars. "I can't exactly take it with me. How about a little fiesta to share with everyone?" The idea was a hit. I ended up passing out at Mama's place, around 3 a.m. By noon, with a heavy heart and an even heavier liver, I was back in the Land Cruiser, warmly saying goodbye to everyone. The ride back to the city was quiet. Jose and Juan were not only humiliated in front of everyone, but nursing hangovers, so bad they could have knocked out a sheep from 100 yards. We pulled up to the hotel in a cloud of dust. I asked for their address, and they panicked. "You promised no police," they cried. "No, you got it wrong," I said. "How else will I find you and Mama when I come back? Or send you a Christmas package from Houston?" Reluctantly, they gave me their address and detailed directions for next time. I grabbed my stuff, kept a couple of cigar boxes, and said heartfelt goodbyes. I assured them there'd be no consequences if they never pulled a stunt like that again. They shook my hand with relief, and we're still friends to this day. Oh, and that ransom note, it got delivered to the wrong oil company. My boss assumed I just took a few days off. My contract lets me decide when and where I work. I thought that was the end of the adventure, but the other oil company forwarded the note to the police, sparking a search operation. While I slept peacefully for 24 hours in my comfy hotel room, they never found me, though they did round up plenty of lost gringos in local bars. Story 2. How I almost cooked the guy who stole my bath. Years ago, fresh out of university as a greenhorn geologist, I went on a mandatory summer field course, a rite of passage before earning a geology bachelor's degree. For some schools, it was the final hurdle before graduation. The course involved 2 6-week sessions of applied field geology in the middle of nowhere, Western USA. We were tougher back then, no dorms or hostels. We lived in tents, cooked over fires, and used outdoor latrines. It made sense since we spent 6 weeks mapping 2 quadrants of Idaho's primitive area, a 4.5-hectare chunk of wilderness, with no settlements, shops, roads, or restaurants. Just rugged mountain ranges, untamed rivers, a couple of glaciers, and elevations ranging from high to insanely high. It was raw, perfect for geologists. Our base camp was a repurposed abandoned logging and mining site, complete with old mines and rusty equipment. We got fresh water from icy streams fed by a glacier 4 kilometers up the canyon. No electricity, but plenty of natural gas thanks to our diet of beans, sausages, and beer. With about 30 of us, the first few days were spent clearing rocks, roots, and rattlesnakes to set up tents, build latrines, one in an old fluorite mine shaft, and gather logs for seeding and firewood. The area was rugged. A bonus, our camp faced an abandoned copper mine, surrounded by forgotten mining gear, which would matter later. Our only amenity was glacial water, so bathing was a challenge. We were tough, but nobody wanted hypothermia. After a week, we reeked like a gym bag left in a hot car trunk. Being budding scientists, someone had a genius idea: repurpose an old metal ore cart from the mine, prop it on stone supports near the stream, hide it behind brush, and use old mine ventilation pipes to divert stream water into it. Voila, a makeshift tub. Problem was, it turned ice-cold stream water into an ice-cold vat, but our tub sat on 4 pedestals of choice. Mesoproterozoic magmatite, granite, and if someone hauled wood and lit a fire under it, the water could warm up enough to soak and deodorize. We had occasional recon days, essentially breaks from projects. That session had 4 sub-projects: magmatic, metamorphic sedimentary rocks, and surface geology, where you could do whatever. We worked in teams with diverse specialties and quirks. On our first recon day, my team knocked out minor tasks and returned to camp by lunch to relax. Bottles of whiskey and beer appeared, and we lit the campfire early. We sat on logs, drank cheap beer, smoked cheaper cigarettes, and swapped dubious stories. I realized I desperately needed to scrub off layers of Idaho grime. I grabbed a 6-pack and headed across the stream to our DIY tub. Our engineering was solid. I redirected the pipe to fill the tub, where a small fire was already burning underneath. While it filled, I gathered more wood to temper the glacial chill. 5 minutes later, I returned to find one of our less conscientious teammates, nicknamed Two Beers for his inability to handle ethanol, lounging in my barely warmed tub, sipping one of my beers. 2 beers? What the hell are you doing? I set this up for me. I snapped. Yeah, but I need to wash too. You can go after me. Toss some wood on the fire, and I'll watch it for you later, he said. No, get out. You can go after me, I replied. Come on, man, he whined. I'm on kitchen duty and only have an hour before I head back. Grudgingly, I relented, team spirit and all. I scoured the area for bark, branches, and kindling, returned, and tossed dry sticks into the fire. Soon I had a roaring blaze under the tub. 2 beers lounged in water that was just above freezing, sipping another of my beers. So, 2 beers, what's for dinner? I asked. Dunno, we'll find out when we eat, he said. I thought you were on kitchen duty. Oh yeah, that's tomorrow, he mumbled. You're insufferable, I said. You know that old tale about a frog? Toss it in boiling water. It jumps out, heat it slowly, it stays until it cooks. Well, 2 beers was about to become my lab amphibian. A quick aside, most local firewood was hardwood, like oak, burns long and steady, but hard to ignite. The rest was cedar, full of resin, which lights easily, burns fast and hot. Fast forward 10 minutes. I returned with an armful of prime cedar wood. 2 beers was snoring in the now cozy tub. I stoked the fire like I was fueling Hades' furnaces, grabbed a fresh beer from the stream, nature's finest cooler, splashed in some whiskey, lit a cigarette, and settled in for the show. Whenever the fire dimmed, I tossed in more cedar. I also threw in a couple of oak logs, so I could relax when I reclaimed the tub. After about 30 minutes and half a cubic meter of torched cedar, a blood-curdling scream erupted. Holy shit, I'm burning! Hot! 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 Fuck! 2 beers shot out of the tub, sprinted over rocks and gravel, and dove headfirst into the glacial stream. I'm freezing! Cold! Cold! The whole camp rushed over to see 2 beers buck naked, crawling onto a gravel bar in the stream, skin festive red, howling that he was burning and freezing. I drained the hot water, refilled the tub, and had a damn fine soak. The camp got a legendary new campfire story. That's it. Let me know your thoughts on these stories in the comments. Thanks for watching the video to the end. Check out our previous video linked here, and best of luck to you all.